Hakadosh, Boker Or, Masechet, Bava Kamma Daf Tet Amud Aleph 29a1. We were just speaking about the entire concept of that if you're going to tell me now that there's going to be a difference between killing and nizikin, right? So we said, if you're going to tell me now, we're on the bottom of Kaf Chet Amud Bet. When are we going to say these words to do with killing? What does that mean? That a person is going to be patur on an honest to do with death penalty, but to do with nizikin, he should be chayav. But Tanya, we learned in a braita, nishbira kado, right? Nishbira kado. He says, what happens right now if his kad broke? Velo silko. Yeah, kad is a jug, right? And he didn't take it. So imagine a guy's jug breaks and he doesn't remove it. Nafal gemalo, his gemal falls and he doesn't remove it. He doesn't stand it up. Rabbi Meir mechayev bezekan. Rabbi Meir is going to be mechayev in the ezek. Right? V'chachamim omrim, v'chachamim say, patur midinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shamayim. He's going to be patur midinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shamayim. Right? Kaftet Amud Aleph. Right? So he says, Betin cannot force him to pay. That's what it means, patur midinei adam v'chayav b'dinei shamayim. Umodim chachamim l'Rabbi Meir. And chachamim are going to be modim to Rabbi Meir. Be'avno sakino masao. With the even sakinu masa. Remember, a stone, right? Knife or a burden. So he comes and he says, in such a case, he comes and he says like this. He says, "Shinicham berosh kagodo." You put it on the top of your roof. V'naflu beruach metzuya, and it fell with a common wind. Viziku, right, and it damaged. Shehu chayav, you should be chayav. Why? If you put a stone on top of the roof and a regular wind comes and it pushes it off, you're obligated. So he says, "Umoder Rabbi Meir l'Rabbanan," but the Rabbi Meir is going to be moder to the Rabbanan. What is it you put them up there in order to dry them up? And then it fell, all of a sudden it came some type of a torment, some type of very strong wind, and boom, it flew away. You're going to be patur. Why? Because here it was honest. So therefore, how are you going to tell me the words of Rabbi Yehuda? That when a person is going to be mitkaven, he's going to be chayav like Rabbah. That's not true. Ela amar Abaye, but rather Abaye comes and he says, betarte plige, with two things they're arguing. Plige, there's a machloket to do with nezek that is caused b'shata nefila, during the time when it falls. Uplige le'achara nefila, and also there's going to be also after it already falls. Plige b'shat nefila, there's going to be a machloket during the time when it's going to fall. Benitzkal, that if a person comes and he stumbles upon it, he's going to be poshea. More savar nitzkal posheahu, more savar nitzkal la posheahu. There's a machloket, do we say that he's considered poshea or not? Which means there's also going to be a machloket after it already fell, because we're talking about b'mafkir nizakav. Whatever you made it hefker, right? Your damaging thing made it. You made it hefker. More savar mafkir nizakav chayav, more savar patur. Imagine right now I have a knife. It falls under the Reshut Rabbi. What do? I say, you know what? It's hefker. And now it damages. So it's not mine. I made it hefker. Machloket between Rabbi Yehuda, right, and Tana Kama, are you going to be chayav or patur? According to Tana Kama, you're chayav. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you're going to be patur. So says the Gemara, umimai midiktani tarte. Why do we learn two different cases about tuchlak echad b'mayim or shelaka b'charsit? Do you know, right? In our Mishnah, we learned two different cases. One case is that it slipped in the water, and the other case is that the piece of shards from the pottery came and it damaged. Hainuach, it's the same thing. Why do we need two different cases? But this is what it means to say. Right? The first case was, right, during the time of the nefila, meaning the water fell and now the guy comes and he goes flying. Or lakach harsit is after it already fell and it broke. Now it's going to come and it's going to damage a human being. So therefore, since our Mishnah is dealing with two different inyanim, so to the Braita is talking about two different inyanim. Bishlema kado, I understand the kad, mishkach Allah is going to be found, right, or b'shat nefila, or during the time of b'shat nefila, or lachad nefila. But gemalo, what about the gemala? He says, bishlema lachad nefila, I could understand that it's after it already fell, right? But he says, b'mafkid nivlato, that we're talking about something that's going to be mafkid, right? The nivlato, right? Ela b'shat nivla means you made hefker the carcass. But b'shat nefila, What's the case exactly? How do you do this if it's going to be b'shat nefila? So Amar Ravacha says Ravacha. Yeah, he says Kigon de Abra b'maya derech sirata dinara. You passed it through the water, right, in a place, right, of the river, and therefore what happens is it covered the entire path. So because of that, the gamal came. Imagine there's a flood on the road. The gamal comes by and it gets stuck. So therefore, in such a case, there's a machloka between Rabbi and Chachamim if the bala gamal is going to be considered poshea or not. Okay, so he comes now and he says like this. So he says, right, in such a case, right, he says, Hechidami. What's the case exactly? Idi kadarka charina. If you're going to tell me now that there's another way, so then poshea. Imagine right now you're traveling and you've got two paths. One path is flooded and one is not. You went through the flooded one. It's called poshea. You're negligent. What are you doing? Obviously, right? And if there's no other path, so then anusu. Then you're anus. What do you want? You're honest, right? As usual, you're honest. Right? You could find it in a case where there's a machloket to do with b'shat nefilah, where the bala gamal comes and he was nitkal, and the gamal nitkal bo. So therefore, the bala gamal, right, got stuck, and then the gamal got stuck with him. So in such a case where you had both things, right, he comes and he says, in such a case where you have both things, okay, he comes and he says, in such a case where you have both of them, right, that's what's going to happen. Okay, so he comes and he says, mafkir nizakav. When we're talking about now, lafkir nizakav, what's the kavanah? If you come and you made everything afkir, what kavanah is there? So he says, Amar of Yosef says of Yosef, mitkaven liskot b'charasea. You had kavanah to be zocheh in the pottery. The cherem Ravashi, that's what Ravashi also says, mitkaven liskot b'charasea, meaning even though it broke, you wanted to take the shards because you wanted to reuse it. The broken pieces of pottery, you wanted to take it again because you wanted to reuse it. Okay, Rabbi Lazar comes and he says, b'shat nefilah is actually going to be a machloket. So he comes and he says, aval la'achar nefilah mai. But what about after the nefilah? After it already falls. So l'divrei hakol, you're going to tell me it's going to be patur. Vayikar Rabbi Meir says you're going to be chayav. Ela mai divrei hakol chayav. So what? You're going to tell me everyone says chayav? Rabbanan says you're going to be patur. Ela mai b'shat nefilah. So what does it mean b'shat nefilah? Af b'shat nefilah. Even during the time that it's going to fall. The kamash malan kabayim. We're going to learn like the machlok of the Rabbi that he said that there's actually going to be two machlokot, whether it's b'shat nefilah or le'achar nefilah. Kaftet amubet 29b. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan Amar. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, le'achar nefilah machloket. After the nefilah, it's a machloket. Aval v'shat nefilah mai. But what's going to happen during the time of the nefilah? The divrei kol patur. Are you going to tell me according to everybody it's going to be patur? The hami the kamar of Yochanan lekaman. Since Rabbi Yochanan says later on, lo tema matnitin Rabbi Meir. Don't tell us that Mishnah is dealing with Rabbi Meir. De amar nitkal posheahu. That he's going to tell you the nitkal is going to be a poshea. Miklal de Rabbi Meir mechayev. So it comes out that Rabbi Meir is going to be mechayev. Elamai le divrei kol chayav. So what does it mean now that according to everybody it's going to be chayav? The hami the kamar of Yochanan lekaman lo tema matnitin. Don't tell us a Mishnah. Rabbi Meir he de amar nitkal posheahu. Miklal de patre Rabbanan. So it comes out that Rabbanan said that it's going to be patur. Okay, elahak mashmalam, but rather this is coming to teach you the mafkin nezakav de hacha, right? The mafkin nezakim over here is the patre rabbanan de anusu, that it's going to be anus. Aval mafkin nezakav de alma is going to be mechayev, which means like this. Here in this case, the rabbi say you're going to be patur. Why? Because it was anus. Meaning in a normal case, you're going to be chayav. If I just come and I put a knife in the reshut rabim, and that was say, it's hefker, I'm going to be chayav. Why? What are you doing? You put something in the shul, and now you make it, but in this case, it was already an onus. It was already force majeure. It started that way. So since it started in a force majeure, I'm going to say in this case, you're going to be patur. Okay? Itmar. It was stated. Hamafkin nizakav. Somebody is going to make his nizakim efker. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar. One of them says you're going to be chayav, and one of them says you're going to be patur. So he says, Leima man de mechayev Rabbi Meir. Why don't we just say that the one that's mechayev goes according to Shtat Rabbi Meir. Uman de patar, and according to the one that says it's going to be patur, is according to Rabbanan. So says the Gemara, Liba de Rabbi Meir kol alma lo plige. All right, according to Rabbi Meir, nobody argues. Ki plige liba de Rabbanan. When is the machloket? According to Shitat Rabbanan. Yeah, man de patar, according to the one that's going to make a patur, is like Rabbanan. And the one that says you're going to be chayav, he's going to tell you, Ana de Amri, I hold even like Rabbanan. Ad kan lo patri Rabbanan. Until when are we going to hold Rabbanan? Ela b'mafkin nezakav dehacha. Only if a person is going to make it is if things hefker, like in our case, because he's anus. Aval, however, though mafkin nezakav de'alma, but in a normal case, you're going to be chayav. Tistayem, we want to bring a proof that it's a bilazaru de'amar chayav. De'amar bilazar mishum mishmael, it says bizar nim mishmael. Shnei dvarim enam b'shuto shel adam. There are two things which are not in your reshut, but the pasuk, the Torah made it like it's in your reshut. Ve'eluhen bo b'reshut rabim the chametz mishesh shaot v'mala. Tistayem. Which means this: if you made a board b'reshut rabim, is that in your reshut? It's not in your reshut. Reshut rabim. But it's like it's in your reshut. Why? You made the board. So if you made this pit and you dug the pit, right? That's it. It's in your reshut. It's in the public domain. Doesn't matter. It's like it's yours. The same thing with chametz on Pesach. Chametz on Pesach, technically speaking, it's not yours anymore. But the Torah made it like it's yours because the fact that you came and you kept the chametz, even though that's like yours, and therefore you're going to be chayav on it as well. So says the Gemara, does Rabbi Lazar actually say this? Veha amar Rabbi Lazar, Ibcha Rabbi Lazar says the exact opposite. It's numbers we learned to the Mishnah. If somebody is going to come and he's going to be misovev, the zevel, the fertilizer in the Reshut Rabim, and somebody else gets damaged, he's going to be chayav v'nizko. Amar Rabbi Lazar says Rabbi Lazar shanu ela shenikaven lezekobayin, only if you had kavanah to be zoche. But if you did not have kavanah to be zoche bayin, you're going to be patur. Alma, you see from here, mafkin nezakav patur. If you're going to be mafkin nezakav, you're going to be patur. So you're not going to be chayav, you're going to be patur. So Amar Ravada, you understand? That means we just said that according to Rabbi Lazar, you should be chayav because the Torah put it in your reshut. Here we're saying you're going to be patur. So says the Gemara Amar Ravada, but Ravada says Ravada, ichzira limkoma. We're talking about a case where you put it back into the original place in Reshut Rabin, which means you put it back to its first place. So therefore, it's ki'ilu lo nagabo me'olam. So therefore, it's like a chofer b'Reshut Rabin. It's like you dug a pit in Reshut Rabin. So therefore, in such a case, you're going to be chayav. Okay, so Ravina comes and he says, right? Mashal Ravada bar Ava lema davar domeh. What is this compared to? He says it's compared to lemotze bor megule v'chisahu. Imagine you found a pit which is revealed. You're walking on parting, and also you find there's a hole. So what happens? You covered it, but then you revealed it again. That means kol hakavod. You found a pit that somebody could fall inside and get damaged. So you came and you covered it. Chazak u'baruch. But then you came and you took it off. So you revealed it again. So what's halacha? So he says, obviously you should be chayav, right? He says, here though, maybe you should be patur, because if so, you didn't really do anything. Let's take you out of the equation. Was it already revealed? Yes. You came and you covered it. Then you came and you uncovered it. But if I take you out of the equation, if somebody was walking, would they have fell in? Yes. Without you there, they would have fallen in anyway. So why should you be chayav? Well, you shouldn't be chayav. You should be patur. So Amal Morzuta Bedere de Rav Mari de Ravina. Midami, can you compare both cases? Hatam over there. Lo yistalek lehu maaser rishon. He says the bore is still there, right? But right now it cannot be mazik, and therefore we cannot come and saying that revealing it is a maaseh chadash. You're just putting it back to its original status quo. Hacha in our case, right? Yistalek lehu maaser rishon, right? You put it in the Reshut Rabim. And then it was like already a takala. So halodam yela jadam lemotze bor megule utmama. Imagine right now you found a pit and you filled it in. It means you didn't cover it. You filled in the pit, right? So there was a bore, and you come and you put all the dirt. Now there's no bore anymore, and then you dug it up again. The istalik behu maaser rishon. So now it came out the first maaseh. The kamele b'shuto. So now it's in your reshut. Meaning there's a big difference between if you found an uncovered pit and you covered it and then you uncovered it again, between where you filled in the pit and then you come and you dig it again. Because we're saying that since you dug it again, now you should be chayav. But in the other case, even with when you just covered it and then the border was always there. You just stopped it from damaging. So now you removed it. But here, when you come and you dig a new pit, it's a new entity. Yeah? So he says, Ela Maravashi, but rather Ravashi says, what you did was that you made it that it was going to be less than 3 tfachim. And then you put it in the ground, which means when you picked it up less than 3 tfachim of the ground, it's ki'ilu, it never came out from the ground. right? We're talking about again that you had fertilizer, right? So you come and you're taking it from the ground, but since you never picked it up above the ground 3 tvachim, it's considered always as part of the ground. Okay, so says the Gemara, and therefore it's not going to be considered, right, bor either, right? So he comes and he says, why does Rabbi Eliezer have to say that we're talking about such a case? Only because he has kavanah. Just say that it's going to be above 3 tvachim, even though you don't have a kavanah to be zocheba. You should be chayav. So Rava comes and he says, we had a question on the Mishnah. My idea litznei higbiya. Why do we say magbiyat halal? Shmamina kol afach lemata mishlosha. Whenever you use the terminology afach, lafoch, to turn over, it means that you're doing it within the 3 tvachim. Because remember, once you pick it up 3 tvachim, it's not on the ground anymore. An avel has to sit within 3 tvachim. Why? Because within 3 tvachim, right? Right? Within 3 tvachim. Ma? Then he says like this. He says an avel has to sit within 3 tvachim of the ground. Within 3 tvachim, he's sitting on the floor. If it's above 3 tvachim, it's on the ground. The same thing. When it says the word hafach has to be done that it's within the 3 tvachim of the ground. Because if it's not within the 3 tvachim of the ground, right, it's nothing. Okay, fine. Next, says the Gemara. Right, so therefore we're going to deduce if Rabbi Elazar says it's going to be chayav, so obviously Rabbi Yochanan says it's going to be patur. Rabbi Yochanan say this. We learned in the Mishnah. המצניע את הקוץ ואת הזכוכי והגודר גדרו בקוצים וגדר שנפל ברשות הרבים והוזק בהן אכן חייב בנזקו. Imagine right now a person comes and he's מצניע את הקוץ ואת הזכוכי, which means he put a thorn or glass in the רשות הרבים. Or he comes and he puts his gader, right, with kotzim, or a gader that falls into the Reshut Rabim, and somebody gets damaged. In all these cases, you're going to be chayav. Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo shanu ela b'mafriach. That's only that you put the kotzim there, right, to go all around the Reshut Rabim. But if you gather them inside of your Reshut, you're going to be patur. Mitzamtzem, why are you going to be patur if you gather them, if you're mitzamtzem, to bring all of them together? Why are you going to be patur? La mishum davele bor b'Reshuto, is it not because it's a born in your Reshut? So miklal the chiyuv of the Reshut Rabimu alma mafkin as a kav chayav. So therefore, if you're going to tell me this, so it comes out that according to Rabbi Yochanan, the chiyuv of the bor is only in Reshut Rabim. So it comes out that if you're going to be mafkin as a kav, right, you're going to be chayav. So says the Gemara, no, it's not true. Really, I'm going to tell you mafkin as a kav is going to be patur. When you're going to be mafkin nezakim, you're going to be patur. Mitzamtzem, what are you going to be patur? Diit marala mishum, because it was stated mishum diit marala. It's not normal for people to come and start scratching their backs on the walls, and therefore, right? If the guy's going to come and start scratching his back, and all of a sudden it was thorns, so it's not your fault. It's not normal. Not normal. That's what he says. And therefore, since it's not normal, if he comes and he does that, זה לא נורמלי. Yeah. We have to get him. Yeah, we have to buy him the thing, the stick. Yeah. Yeah, we'll give him for both. Yeah. So he says, Rabbi Yochanan Hachi, does Rabbi Yochanan actually say this? Rabbi Yochanan says, Alachaz like a stam mishnah. Utzanan, we said, Achofer bo b'reshut rabim, v'nafal l'tocho shoroch hamorumet. Chayav, you're going to be chayav. So therefore, the Mishnah is telling you that a person is going to be chayav on board Reshut Rabim. So if the halacha is like a stam Mishnah, so for sure that's it. So if somebody's going to be mafkin zakav, he's going to be chayav. Ela leolam Rabbi Yochanan says it is chayav. So says the Gemara, if Rabbi Yochanan is going to tell you chayav, so Rabbi Elazar is going to be one that tells you patur. But Amar Rabbi Elazar says Rabbi Elazar, how could he tell you it's patur? Mishum Rabbi Ishmael, he says this in the name of Rabbi Ishmael. So he comes and he says, right? He comes and he says, look, Kasha, it's not a question. Hadidei. One of them is his, meaning he holds that mafkin nizakav is going to be patur. The second shita is his rabbi. His rabbi holds that if you're going to be mafkin nizakav, you're going to be chayav. Okay, and with this we finish until the Mishnah.